There are a lot of successful people that have a dirty little secret. They can't focus for shit. Now you might be someone that's crushing it in your business or making good money, but yet your brain feels like it's running on 5 different operating systems all at once. You sit down knowing that you have a ton of stuff to do, and then you find yourself checking Slack, looking at your emails, putting out any other fire that comes your way. Does that sound at all familiar? I'm Jesse. I've studied performance and organizational psychology for over a decade, and I've helped 6 to 8 figure entrepreneurs establish the systems and routines to scale themselves in order to be the people capable of scaling their businesses. And look, I get it because I've lived it. And not only was I that guy that just a few years ago was working basically 5 different jobs all at once, staying busy as hell but getting nowhere. I also come from a family full of ADHDers, and I was the person whose brain was constantly scattered, never really diving deep enough into anything, knowing everything that I knew about performance, and I would still sit down to work on something important and within 10 minutes find myself pulled into something else. But as I continued working specifically with athletes and build up my training business, one of my 5 jobs, I was able to reground in a key realization, which was the best performers that I had seen weren't just talented. They could access this zone where time just seemed to melt away and their performance skyrocketed. And they were able to do this because they had a system for getting there. And so I started dialing back in on what exactly creates the flow state. What I'm about to show you is not another productivity hack. It's not Notion, Asana, Trello, or any of the softwares that you can go and buy. This is the exact neuroscience-backed system that I use with my clients, wherein with just 4 hours of focused work, they're able to get further than most people get in an entire week. So the first thing that you need to understand is that your brain is not designed to focus all day. And as human beings, our brains follow what are called ultradian rhythms. And these rhythms are roughly 90-minute cycles of peak focus, followed by troughs or ultradian healing responses of around 30 minutes, wherein we recharge our focus. And the issue is a lot of entrepreneurs, they'll try to force this focus when their brain is in low energy and recovery. And then they wonder why they can't get into flow. And so here's what you'd want to do instead. I have them track their time and their energy for an entire week. When do you feel the most mentally sharp? For most people, that's going to be the early morning or the mid-afternoon. I had a client that was making $500,000 a month who was doing his deep focus work, or at least trying to, at around 2 p.m. every single day, where he just so happened to realize that that's when his energy consistently was crashing. We went through a shift of moving that deep work to 8 a.m. and within 2 weeks, he was getting more done just in that first 90-minute flow block than he used to get done in entire days. If you think about it, your brain is like a battery. You start the day at full charge, and as you have things grab out at your attention, that battery begins to deplete. And so the key here is you find those peak energy times and schedule your deep work in those times. And that might not feel when it's the most convenient, but that's when your brain really is ready for it. So after you audit your energy, the second thing to understand is your environment is programming your brain whether you realize it or not. And our brains are heavy association machines. If you're trying to do any focused work in the same settings where you relax or scroll social media or even eat lunch, your brain is getting a lot of mixed signals. You need a dedicated space for your brain to be able to focus on that one thing, deep work. And even separate spaces for other types of work. And it doesn't have to be super fancy. It could be as specific as a totally separate corner of the office or a common room, a particular coffee shop that you like, or even a specific chair. But what happens there is you start to train your brain to know when it's time to lock in. But on top of that, you also need to make sure that you're removing any other distractions. Putting your phone in another room, or for me, I have this soap box, I think it's called, which I just unplugged, but it also doubles as a UV cleaner. So that's a nice little tool that I like to use. But having that dedicated space, removing distractions, keeping the phone in another room, shutting off the notifications, decluttering the desk, right? Not having too many other things to draw your sight and attention. That's all going to be super important. And an added layer is using the same sensory triggers, whether that's a similar playlist that you use, the same lighting, or maybe even the same scent or room spray that you use. Through all that, you're training your brain, and you're doing all of this through environmental cues and through specific stimuli that actually act to prime the brain. Let me take you back to a quick little experiment that I did in college. What I wanted to do was be able to recall information from each of my different classes more effectively. So what I did was made sure to sit in a different area of the classroom across different classes, but I also used different flavors of gum. I had about 4 or 5 different flavors of gum that I would chew on and would associate with a specific class. So let's say math was mint, and maybe I had mixed berry for history. I don't quite remember the exact ones, but I would try to keep that consistent. And so therefore, when I had to go to take a test, or maybe if I was in a separate environment as well, I could have a sensory trigger to be able to recall information that was important. And of course, this was very anecdotal. I didn't have a double blind. I didn't have a hypothesis for all this stuff. This was just a personal experiment, but I do feel that it had helped me in a lot of different ways. If you've made it this far and you've gotten some value out of this video, please hit that subscribe button and make sure to drop a like here. I really appreciate it, and it helps me get this video out to more and more people who want to flow just like you. That said, let's keep diving in. So going into the third step, the most elite performers, they don't rely on motivation. They use rituals. And by rituals, I don't mean a blood sacrifice of the firstborn. But before any deep work sessions, you need to establish a pre-work ritual. And what that ritual will do is it's going to signal to your brain as well that it's time to focus through a sequence of activities or certain triggers that you implement. So this could be 2 minutes of deep breathing or a specific stretching routine, writing down your intention for each deep work session. But the key to this is consistency, and the more that you repeat it, the stronger the associations start to build. And if you're at all curious what mine is, I've gone through a plethora of different routines. I've tried the 12-step morning routines. What I've found to enjoy the most right now is I wake up and I immediately replenish my body with water. I'll add some electrolytes or mineral salts in there sometimes. I leave my phone on the charger in another room. I walk into my office, and then I get into just a quick stretch session. Maybe it's some 10 push-ups and some squats and just something quick. It's not anything intensive. Probably literally within 2 minutes I do this. Then I sit down and I write the quick intention of whatever is top of mind. And being that my brain state is naturally primed for flow upon waking up, I just kind of flow with whatever's top of mind. But through the same sequence of activities, it's like a switch. My mind knows that I'm ready to work, and I don't have any other distractions pulling me away from anything. Now the fourth step is where most people really miss the mark. And it's an area where through working with athletes, I've been able to really see a lot of good results from. But in business, people don't really think about it the same. And pro athletes, they visualize their performance before they step onto the court or the field. So the question you should be asking yourself is, why don't you do the same before a deep work session or a conference or board meeting, sales call, whatever it is? Spend just 1 to 2 minutes literally visualizing, working with complete focus. See yourself moving through those tasks effortlessly, what that looks like. Now, what makes this so impactful is that the brain does not distinguish between a visualized action and a real action. And so through this visualization, you are priming your nervous system for the state that you want it to access. And I want to be clear, this isn't just some woo-woo manifestation, I believe it and therefore it will happen type of deal. Like, this is how elite performers prepare their minds for peak performance. So let me paint the picture of how you can put this all together and what your flow optimized day would specifically look like. And that would be starting with intention. So just 10 minutes to define that #1 priority for the day and do a quick visualization of it. Implementing your flow rituals, your priming rituals. Block out deep work in 90-minute sessions where your energy is at its highest. Most people are going to be able to handle 2 to 3 max of these per day. So that's 3 high flow focus blocks of 90 minutes or so. This can vary for people. So 90 minutes for you might feel like a real drag. If that's the case, you can implement the Pomodoro technique, which is where you break down that 90-minute flow block into approximately 3 sessions within itself. 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off, repeat that 3 times. After that 90th minute, that's when you'll go into your ultradian healing response of approximately 20 to 30 minutes. But nonetheless, what's key is that you use your flow ritual before each of these sessions. Have your environment set, have your distractions completely eliminated, have your brain primed and ready to go. Now, part of maintaining these productivity cycles is taking intentional breaks. And that doesn't mean just grabbing your phone and scrolling and saying that it's break time. That means standing up, actually recovering, going for a quick walk, a stretch, getting fresh air, but protect your inputs at all costs. And then finally, make sure to end with some level of reflection and take 5 minutes or so just to capture what worked throughout the day, what didn't work, what needs to be improved on, and what tomorrow's priority should be. And try to get that in your brain a little bit going into the evening, where your mind will start to unravel and you'll have some time with your thoughts to really figure out and plan out the next day. Maybe you'll dream about it. But when you structure your days like this, you're not just being productive, you're training your brain to access flow state and be able to do so more consistently. So I just said that you need to protect your inputs. So let me tell you exactly what's killing your flow and why most productivity advice is just completely backwards. Because a lot of times we see productivity as doing more and more and more and more. Well, in reality, productivity is about eliminating as much bullshit as possible. And so the first big flow blocker that so many people, for some deluded reason, take pride over is multitasking. The thing with multitasking is it's not a real thing. Every time you switch contexts or switch tasks, your brain needs time to refocus, or what I call reorient, to each new task. And some studies show that it actually takes around 20 plus minutes just to fully reorient and get back deep into one task or another. So instead of multitasking, take pride in being an elite single tasker, because that's going to be way better. And it's the only way that you can actually access flow. Now, the second thing that's going to block your flow, unclear outcomes. If nothing else, that is one of the prime indicators of being able to achieve a flow state, is having clear outcomes. And so if you don't know exactly what success looks like for your work session, if you can't visualize it properly, your brain will resist it. That's because it needs a very clear, concise target. So saying, this is my work on the business block, that's not clear enough. Go deeper. Completing my Q4 strategy hiring document, whatever it is. That's a little bit better. Now, the third biggest mistake that will ruin all chances at flow is trying to push through when you're feeling a bit mentally fried. Especially being down here, living in Miami, I see a lot of the grind culture entrepreneurs where they get it wrong just by thinking if they put in more hours and they post themselves at 1 a.m. working on their business, that equals more results. But when you intentionally ignore your natural energy cycles, you're not actually being more disciplined or more productive. You're just being stupid. Flow happens when you're able to create the right conditions and get out of your own way. And most people are trying so hard to be in that grind culture, be productive, that they're actually preventing the state that makes it possible for real productivity. Everything that I've shared today is just scratching the surface of how to systematically access flow state. My complete flow state formula breaks down every little element, from optimizing your weekly schedule to advanced visualization techniques to the specific recovery protocols that can keep you sharp. And I've put together the full system in a detailed guide, everything that my clients use to consistently access peak performance. So if you want it, the link is down in the description. No sales pitches, nothing, just free resource. But if you are someone who wants to take this deeper and you want to really dive in and build a tailored flow system unique to your psychology, your personality, business, and life goals, then I would love to talk about it. If that is you, feel free to go and DM me the word clarity on Instagram at Jesse H. Hoffman. But I really think you should start with this guide. Apply everything that you can possibly learn, see how it makes some shifts and changes your work. Because once you experience real flow state for that first time and time just disappears, your best work is just flowing effortlessly and just pouring out of you, you will never want to go back to being that guy who's just scattered and reactive and lacks complete productivity ever again. So I hope this has been valuable to you, and if it has, consider giving this video a like, subscribe down below, and I will talk to you in the next one. Peace.